Thank you for being here. Now I'm going to read out the declarations being adopted today by the foreign ministers that supported it. Political declaration to be adopted has already been adopted. Within the first meeting of the Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations, the Group of Foreign Ministers meeting, we, representative of Algeria, Angola, Belarus, Bolivia, Cambodia, China, Cuba, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Iran, the Lao People's Democratic Republic, Nicaragua, the State of Palestine, Russia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Syria, and Venezuela met at the ministerial level in New York on the sidelines of the high-level week of the 76th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations in order to undertake an assessment of recent developments in the international arena, including of challenges and threats to the Charter of the United Nations, which underpins multilateralism, and to exchange views on existing new and emerging issues of collective concern and common interest. We recall the declaration adopted on 6 July 2021 in New York at the ambassadorial level and reaffirm that the Charter of the United Nations and its purposes and principles remain timeless, universal, and that they are all indispensable not only for preserving and promoting international peace and security, the rule of law, economic development and social progress, as well as all human rights for all, but also for achieving a more peaceful, prosperous, just and equitable world, and a system based precisely on the rules contained in the universal and legally binding instrument that constitutes an exceptional achievement for humankind and a true act of faith on the best of humanity. We vow to spare no effort in preserving, promoting, and defending the prevalence and validity of the Charter of the United Nations, which, in the current international juncture, has a renewed and even more important value and relevance. In this regard, we express our resolve to expand the work of our group of friends beyond the United Nations headquarters in New York, particularly at the offices of the United Nations in Geneva, Nairobi, and Vienna, as well as the headquarters of the other United Nations specialized agencies, in order to advance our joint efforts for ensuring the respect and adherence to the Charter of the United Nations in both its letter and spirit. We express our serious concern at the growing resort to unilateralism, in detriment not only of multilateralism, but also of international cooperation and solidarity, which must be deepened now more than ever, including in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, in order to forge collective, inclusive, and effective solutions to the common challenges and threats of the 21st century of interconnectedness. Hence, while renewing our fair commitment with a reinvigorated multilateralism that shall have the United Nations at its center, we convey our support to nations and peoples subjected to unilateral and arbitrary approaches that violate both the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the basic norms of international law, and renew our calls for the full respect to the inalienable right of people to self-determination, as well as the territorial integrity and political independence of all nations. We invite those members of the international community that are committed with the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, with the prevalence of legality over force, with the values of dialogue, tolerance, and solidarity, as well as with an effective and inclusive multilateralism in which all regions and all sizes of states are equal and engaged alike, to consider joining a group of friends and or endorsing this very declaration at their earliest convenience as part of our common efforts to advance our common agenda and to ultimately keep delivering on the promise of the Charter of the United Nations and ensuring that no one is left behind. New York, 23rd of September, 2021. Thank you very much for your presence here. Thank you.